Welcome to Griffith University, Naomi Saines. It's wonderful to have you with us. Firstly, I would love it if you could tell us a bit more about your professional role and about the social media platforms that you're most active on.
Yes, well, I'm a very keen marketer. I'm the marketing manager of Intopia, which is a digital accessibility company. And I also run Kroll Consultancy, a marketing consulting company which specialises in LinkedIn and personal branding. Also the marketing chair of the Brisbane Junior Chamber of Commerce. So overall, marketing is my world. In my personal life, I love to use Instagram for the entertainment element, but in my professional life, LinkedIn is the place to be. I use it every day. I've been on the platform for about 6 years. I'm definitely a bit of a LinkedIn freak.
Okay. Now, in the interview with Melinda Rogers this week, and it's an older interview that we look at in this course, she refers to how LinkedIn is an underutilised platform, but this is quickly changing, and perhaps in the wake of Twitter's transition to X, which is now a completely different entity altogether. Now, you are super active on LinkedIn, and I'd love you to share with us how you go about communicating on the platform.
It's a wonderful tool for personal development, growing your personal brand, expanding your network, and just meeting awesome people that you might not have been able to meet otherwise. For businesses, it's a fantastic tool for marketing, particularly in the employee advocacy side. So empowering the employees to be active on LinkedIn. First of all, it's great for their own personal branding and showing, as a company that you're invested in their growth, but also it makes sense for a business because people connect with people, not a faceless logo. So employees who are really active on LinkedIn are going to get much, much, much more engagement than a post on a simple company page. So it really makes sense for organizations to empower their people on LinkedIn. Myself, how I like to use LinkedIn, it's about giving value. It's more of a pull versus a push marketing strategy. So giving so much value that people just come to me, and just being authentic as I can and waiting for the opportunities to come to me, and also building my network and increasing engagement to make those opportunities happen as well.
Yeah, interesting. And what techniques do you find that are the most effective ones to use in terms of engaging your audiences?
Yes. Well, 3 key elements of a great LinkedIn strategy. Well, first of all, your profile. A lot of people get stuck on that. They'll spend a lot of time on their profile, but they'll forget about the next 2 elements. Content, of course, putting your message out there, showing that thought leadership. And then, of course, engagement is the one that ties it all together. You can't have a great LinkedIn strategy without engagement. A couple of ways that people can engage with their audiences and build those really great connections. First of all, when you've done a post, is hanging around to actually reply to different comments when people comment on your post. And that's really important. It also boosts the LinkedIn algorithm. So if you've just done a post and come back 48 hours later and there's all these comments that you haven't replied to, you've actually missed out on a really great opportunity for it to be shared to a wider audience. You can also comment on other people's posts. I spend 5 minutes at the start of every day going through my LinkedIn feed, interacting with other people. I also get notified about key people's posts, the people that I want to build a relationship with. If you go onto their profile, if you're connected with them or you are following them, there'll be a little bell icon at the top right of their profile, just under their cover photo, and you can choose to get notified when that person posts. So it'll go in your notifications section, and this ensures that you're not missing out on the opportunity to engage and build a relationship with a key person that you want an opportunity from. And then, of course, growing your audience as well is really important. If you go into the My Network section, it'll give you a whole lot of suggested connections as well. It's a gold mine. The LinkedIn algorithm knows you, it knows who you're connected with, who you're engaging with, your own role and where you're working, and it'll suggest people to you to connect with. A really great place to expand your network as well.
Yeah, that's fabulous advice. And sort of beyond engagement, but let's talk about the specific tools that you use to help you create high quality posts that are visually exciting, but also concise.
Yes. On the visual side, I love Canva. As a marketer, it makes me very happy. It makes graphic design really easy. You don't have to have any Photoshop or graphic design skills. There's all these wonderful templates and elements that you can use. I do use the paid version. I think it's maybe $180-ish a year, but you can write it off on tax.
It's a good investment.
If your role is in that space. I use my phone to take photos a lot of the time. Posts with photos get a much higher engagement than text-only posts. It does require a bit of bravery, putting a photo of yourself that you might have taken yourself on your smartphone. It doesn't have to be professional, but I use that as well. For planning my posts, I use project management tools. Trello and Asana are free. Really, it's just a glorified to-do list. I create a board and create different sections to organize my posts. I have an ideas section. If I'm on the fly, if I see something cool or I have a thought, I write it down, and that's really important, writing it down straight away. I then have a section where I've dedicated a date or a theme to a post. I've already got a couple of ideas jotted down. It's like a committed to column, and then a final edits and graphics, and then a done. And what I can do is go into the little calendar section, and I can see the balance of when my posts are going out and what content pillars to make sure that they're balanced. And it's a really great way to plan out content. And then, of course, I do use AI tools as well, but we will get to that shortly.
Yes, we definitely will. It also sounds like you're very organised, and I think what you're talking about highlights a real strategic communicative approach to what you're doing. It's not kind of randomised. You're not waiting for anything to come to you. You're really very proactive in that space, and that's a really important point, I think. Can we talk about the language style that you use in your posts?
Yes. I use a semi-professional tone. It still is very friendly and approachable because I'm on a mission to create an emotional connection with my audience and build trust, and I can't do that if I write in a really structured, formal way. It sounds a bit robotic. At the end of the day, your content is being read by one person. You should be writing a post as if you're writing to a friend or a colleague, someone you know and trust, and that's the style that I like to use.
And how do you let's talk about structure. How do you structure your posts to boost engagement?
Structure is really important. You can have really great content, but if it's in long paragraphs or it's not easy to read, people are going to switch off. Social media is all about conciseness. People want easy to read little chunks that they can digest very quickly. If you don't have them within the first 3 seconds, they're gone. So you want to have short paragraphs, use bullet points, use subheadings if you can, and leave lots of white space as well. And on LinkedIn, that's very important. Also, making sure that you have a really great hook at the start of your post. On LinkedIn, it'll show the first 2 lines, or generally it's about a sentence or a sentence and a half, and then it'll have a little ... see more. Now, if you've hooked someone in those first 2 sentences, they will click that see more to see the rest of your post, but that signals to the LinkedIn algorithm that your content is something that they want to read. So really, really important to hook them in there. Then, of course, body, self-explanatory, and then a call to action, or in marketing land, we'd say a CTA. So at the end, you've captured their attention, you've given them something awesome to read. Now what? Are you asking them to comment with their thoughts, or which tip resonates most with them? Read the article here, or maybe you want them to save the post for later. Having that call to action is really important as well.
And so, I mean, that's really good insight. And there's obviously a lot of competing voices on LinkedIn as well, especially marketing voices. And it kind of leads me to the next question, because you did mention authenticity earlier, and I wanted to ask, how important is authenticity, and how does a business or an individual build an authentic presence?
Yes. Well, first of all, with the tone, like I mentioned before about having a really friendly, approachable tone as if I'm writing to someone, I think that also shows that you're not trying too hard as well, that you're just there to share your knowledge and there to give freely, and you're not expecting anything out of it. So that's a really important element. But also the topics that you're sharing about as well, you might reflect on some mistakes you made in your early career and what lessons that you learned from them, or a piece of constructive criticism that you got from a boss and how it impacted your career. And being able to share those stories and personal insights that go beyond your role is also really important in showing who you are as a person beyond your role title.
How personal can you get?
Yes. Sometimes you see people posting reflections they've had from holidays and all sorts of things. I haven't quite got there, but I do like to share a bit about, I'm going to say, the more personal side of my professional career as well.
And I've seen your LinkedIn posts about inclusive communication on social media platforms. So I wanted to ask, how can content creators ensure that their writing and their content creation is inclusive?
Yes. So by inclusive and also accessible, we're meaning that people can understand your content no matter who they are. First thing to look at is using inclusive language. I think a key way we can do that is being careful with the terms that we use to describe groups of people. So for example, being at Intopia, which is an accessibility company, very conscious of that, you would say people with disabilities as opposed to disabled person. Or in Queensland government, they also say, a rough sleeper as opposed to a homeless person. And the whole idea here is you're not putting terminology or an identity onto someone. It's that people first language. That's really important. Readability is also a key thing to look at as well. So making sure that messages are easy to understand, they're digestible. That also comes back to that key engagement and structure that I talked about before. And readability makes sense for everyone, but it's particularly important for people with disabilities and those with English as a second language. You can look at sentence length. Often people will do a comma or an and where it could just be a full stop. Breaking up those sentences into smaller ones, great way to help with readability, but also word length, using more easy to understand language. Instead of contemplate, you might say thought of. Easier language is really, really important for inclusivity. Emoji usage, I'm also going to touch on as well, believe it or not. For accessibility, people who are using assistive technology such as a screen reader, they can't see the screen itself, will have emojis read out to them. If you have 3 emojis in a row, they're going to have every single emoji read out to them, and it can get really annoying, frankly. The advice I got from somebody on our team who uses a screen reader is if you have to use emojis, try and use the ones that have the shorter descriptions. So instead of shooting star in the sky emoji, you might just use star. So using those simple ones is important and selective, not too many. Finally, you also want to look at alternative text or alt text. When you're uploading an image or a graphic, there will be an opportunity to add that alt text, and that's so people who can't see the image can still understand it. You want to give, enough detail, so you wouldn't just say tree. You might say lush tree in a forest with some wildflowers, for example, and that's making it really meaningful for that person who isn't able to see the image.
Now, I'm going to take us to AI now. as a final
Spicy.
topic. And there, you know, because there's AI now that claims it can take care of the design of all of your LinkedIn posts for you, and the timing of when they're posted, the level of engagement, that sort of thing. Can we talk about that? And are you a fan of AI in the LinkedIn space for creating posts and engagement?
It's a very interesting space to be, particularly for those in communication. I am seeing those kind of claims come out as well, that they'll do everything for you. Just because they can doesn't mean you should, or that they are going to do as good of a job as you can. I do use AI tools myself. I use ChatGPT Premium particularly. There's a couple of ways that I like to use it. First of all, ideation stage. So if I'm planning my content for a couple of months, maybe I've got a couple of ideas already, I'll pop them in and say, you know, could you suggest another 5 topics that I can talk about? So those very, very high level ideation bits are really important. You know, hooks for articles, those kind of things it's really good at. I can also use it for analysing clients' posts and coming up with style guides for me. When I have a new client that comes on board, I can pop in, you know, 5 or 10 of their publicly available posts, get it to analyse the structure, the tone, what language they like to use, and create a bit of a tone of voice style guide for me. So it's also really great at analysing. Lots of cool things that you can do with it, but at the end of the day, it's a tool for your toolbox. It isn't the whole toolbox. And you need to understand the techniques of good writing and be able to write eloquently yourself to be able to use it properly. There's a lot of editing and going back and forth that you'll need to do to get it to the right spot. But if you don't understand good techniques yourself, you're not going to know whether it's giving you a piece of crap or not. So yes, use it wisely, but it is a great tool.
That's a fabulous point to end on. Unless you have any more comments you'd like to make, Naomi?
I think we've wrapped it up pretty well.
It's been fabulous. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I think you've offered some really important insights, and also how to use some of these tools really effectively, including AI. It's not just it's not an easy road. It's actually getting stuck in and learning how to actually use it to assist rather than trying to get it to do all the work for you. So thank you so much for coming and talking to us, Naomi.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.